Darren, I'm an addict.
Darren.
And, thanks for asking me to come and share. My ego used to like it when people ask me to share. Not so much it's really about that anymore. What it's about is I wouldn't be at this meeting tonight if I didn't get asked to share. It's my truth. I'd be at another meeting somewhere else. So when I get asked, I get pulled somewhere else in life, which I wouldn't ordinarily go. So I'm quite grateful for that, because I can think being a bit of an addict, like the same home group for like 5 years. So it's wherever you be on Friday night, I'll be there, do you know what I mean? So I'm a bit of I don't know if you relate to that, a bit sort of set me ways. When I get comfortable, everything outside of that is uncomfortable, do you know what I mean? So it's nice to be asked, and I sort of get forced to come and, and be in this meeting. So step one. It's funny, because when I was driving up here, right, I'm from Essex, so I was driving up here. And it don't matter where I go, sort of East London, driving up, sort of from Essex, Ilford, West Ham, Stratford and all that, there's memories, right? There's like, oh, fuck me, there's that boozer, oh, do you remember that? Or do you remember meeting him here? Oh, fucking hell, do you remember that? Like that stuff, right? Well, as I was driving in today, right, I was going, if I fucking relapsed, I'd be too fucking scared to use nowadays. Where would I go? Do you know what I mean? Because everything looks so different to what it was, And I got really fearful. I thought, oh my God, if I did actually pick up, where would I get gear from? Do you know what I mean? I'd be too scared to walk in a boozer now and go, oh, mate, got a bit of whatever. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's like, and the reason I'm sort of saying that, it's like, as I've evolved as a human being, what I wasn't fearful of, and then when I come into recovery, I wasn't fearful of, because I just wasn't connected to. And then as I've got clean and I've sort of been on this journey, I've sort of connected more to myself, and I can see a bit more reality, I suppose. Because driving about West Ham looking for a bit of gear was just part and parcel. I can see the dangers in that now. We was just talking outside about, someone said about, they was talking to someone, he had a bit of gear and he had a heart attack, and but he still had a couple of wraps in his pocket. So he sort of had the heart attack, got away, done the wraps, you know what I mean? I can see that now. It's absolutely insane. But what I can do is I can put myself in that guy's position, and I would have done exactly the same thing. It would have been, well, I've had a heart attack, pull through this, I'm not throwing this away. Where I would have gone with that, I'd have gone like, let's just do it to get it out of the way, and then I can sort my life out. You know what I mean? And I guess that really ties in with step one. There's the absolute powerlessness. Now, I think I've got a wrap in my pocket. I think I've had a heart attack, right? I think I've got some element of control. I think I'm in charge of that bit of gear. Yes, I'm going to do it now. The truth of the matter is I had absolutely no control. I was totally powerless over my addiction. And that's what drugs were doing to me. I think it's really, it's just Narcotics Anonymous, and sometimes I sit in meetings and I sort of do a share, and I think I was talking about my feelings, my emotions and my behaviours that are so far down, and talking about defects of character and all that sort of stuff. And I think to myself, have you lost the very reason that you're here? You know what I mean? It's a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, which basically means, I came here because I couldn't stop using drugs. That was what I come here for. I didn't come here to find God. I didn't come here to look for a bit of peace of mind. I didn't come here to have relationships with people. I didn't come here and think, you know what, I'll get a little sponsor, I'll work the 12s. I didn't come. All I wanted to know, right, was how do I live life with drugs? Tell me how to do this, Because I don't really think, I probably wanted to stop certain drugs, because I see that they were like really upsetting, you know what I mean? Like chasing a bit of crack is fucking hard work. But if I could have a bit of puff and a few beers, it probably would be a lot easier. That's what I was first sort of coming in. On that one, when I chase crack, I don't get nicked or arrested and end up in a nut house. When I have a puff and a booze, I'm getting sectioned and I'm fucking getting locked up. Do you know what I mean? So again, for me, and I sort of mentioned that, it doesn't matter about the substance. You will hit the place in yourself no matter what the substance is. If you're, I don't know, chasing a crack, crack or heroin or whatever it is you're doing, that internal rock bottom, that shift will come about from gambling, it will come about from too much food, it will come about from puffing, it will come about from whatever it comes about. So it's that when I first got here, I was like, oh, thank God for that. What a relief, And I'm a drug addict, right, that come here, so I thought if I could just stop them two, I might be all right. It was clear, raving alcoholic, do not put alcohol near me. I am the worst drinker of alcohol on the planet. My missus says to me now, she was with me, we've been together 30 odd years, 20 years out of an active addiction, right? 36 years it is now. She says to me, if you ever relapse, please do heroin and don't do alcohol. That's the sort of drinker I was, And so it doesn't matter the substance, it's like what you're going to do about it. And I've come to Narcotics Anonymous to sort that out. So I came to Narcotics Anonymous and they said, well, you're an addict. And I went, well, that's pretty obvious, because I do drugs every day. And I thought I'm a bit smart, you know what I mean? I'm not a fucking idiot. I know what an addict is. And then what happened is I got hold of the basic text, the blue book, and they sort of said, an addict in Narcotics Anonymous is a little bit more than that. And I was like, what? And I read the basic text, and if I'm perfectly honest, it just made my jaw drop, and I just thought, what is this all about? And somewhere in here, not in here, that was the important bit in here, right? I thought there's an answer to the problem, right? Which was quite mad, because I didn't really know what the problem was at that stage, and I definitely didn't know what the answer was at that stage, but there was this knowing. So it was like, what is an addict? And what, and I said, well, what is an addict then? What are you saying? Well, you're powerless over your addiction and that your life's unmanageable. Yeah, well, that's it. And I'm like, what do you fucking mean? You know what I mean? You're powerless over your addiction, Well, when you picked up that first one, could you stop? No. Well, that's powerlessness, right? Okay, I sort of get that, right? So, a bit like I was saying about the guy with a heart attack, the powerlessness, I'm doing it when I don't want to be doing it, right? So the first thing, I get it. I'm powerless over drugs. I get that. I couldn't stop. The one I ended up had a real physical addiction. So that powerlessness in that, I could not stop. One, because it was mental. Two, because it was physical, right? So I thought, well, I get that. I know what you're saying. Yeah, I'm powerless. There was many times. Me around alcohol, my wife used to say to me, don't drink that drink. That's the one. I go, oh, shut up. What's the matter with you? I drink that drink, go into blackout and end up wherever, I couldn't see that, right? So again, it was like, well, I get that. I'm powerless over the alcohol. I get it, you know what I mean? I know, I could see I could understand that. And they kept saying to me, well, you're powerless over addiction. And I was fucked with that. I thought, what are you talking about? I could get the drugs, but I couldn't understand what they meant about powerless over my addiction, And I couldn't understand totally when it was not about using drugs. I couldn't really understand powerlessness, and it was my wife that actually shifted this thing for me, because I was sitting in meetings and people going, well, I'm powerless over people, places, and things, and I used to sit there and think, what? Hold on a minute. We're powerless over our addiction. Now you're powerless over people, places, and things. What the fuck are you lot talking about? It's fucking nonsense. And I used to sit there and think to myself, powerless over people? If I go up to you and punch you straight in the fucking face, I'll show you how powerless I am. That was my thinking at the time, And I was having this conversation with my wife, because I came here, you said to me, keep coming back. I thought that was nuts. You said to me, get a bit of service. I thought, you cheeky fuckers. You know what I mean? You said, read literature. Fucking read literature. Take phone numbers of men and ring men. I'm not gay either. Do you know what I mean? I was just, But luckily for me, the drugs had done such a number that fucking rebellious attitude, it was still going on inside. I was too broken to verbalise it. So I just did it all. And that's the blessing. I'm always careful when I say this. It's the blessing of what drugs done to me, because I'm sitting here now. Yeah, it weren't a blessing at the time, I can assure you. And if you're sitting here and you're caught in the grips, there's no blessings in it at that moment. But now that's what drugs do. They shut me down enough to let my feet keep doing what you suggested to do, you know. And so I come here, I kept coming back, didn't see the point in that, especially churches, Friday nights. Fuck it now, do you know what I mean? Taking numbers, I took numbers, I thought I ain't calling no one. You know, get yourself a sponsor. Get yourself a sponsor. What's that? Like, how do I do that? Well, someone who's got something you want. So I see a guy, he drove a Porsche and had a Rolex. I thought, he's the one for me. Do you know what I mean? Totally, I've not got a clue what was going on here. Not a clue, you know. And then they said, right, so I got a bit of service. The first bit of service I got, they got me making tea, right? They actually took the service off of me making tea because I couldn't deal with it. I was so messed up in my head. I'd go, do you want tea? I'd go, yeah, tea with 1 sugar, right. Oh, fuck it. What was it? Tea with 1 sugar, right, okay. And then I'd turn around to someone and go, oh, can I have a coffee as well? And if I've got tea with 1 sugar and a coffee at the same time, mind blown, can't do it, right? I'll be standing there, sweating, right? Yeah, I can't do this, do you know what I mean? And in the back of my head thinking, surely using's easier than this. This is how insane I was. Using's easier than making cups of tea and a coffee, you know. So I got involved with it even though I didn't feel it. And then I started doing step and I come up to this step one, I just didn't understand it. I didn't get it. It was too simple, it was too complicated, I don't know, I didn't understand it, you know. And I remember sitting down with my missus, I remember this meeting and this guy went, he said, I missed the train today. And he said, I was on the platform and I realised I was powerless. Like, and I was sort of sitting there thinking, if you'd have checked on the internet, right, at the time, right, you would have known that what time it was going to be, right, and you would have fucking got your train. So it's not powerless, he's just a prick, mate. You know what I mean? This is my thinking. I'm not voicing this, but I'm thinking it, you know. So I've gone home and I'm talking to my missus and I said, these fucking idiots are talking about powerless over people and all that. And she went, well, you are. I went, fuck off, not you and all, do you know what I mean? She went, well, you are powerless over people. She said, take our daughter, for example. You can suggest to do a few things to her, like suggest for her to do things. If she chooses not to do it, you have no power over that. So I went, oh, right, oh, that's fair enough. She said, so you are powerless. I went, oh, right, I sort of get that. And then I said these magic words to her. I said, oh, right. I sort of understood powerlessness then. And then I said to her, well, she went to me, she went, yeah, I'm as powerless as you over that. So I went, right. And then I said to her the magic words. I said to her, so are you powerless over your addiction? She went, no, I fucking ain't, right? And what I realised in that moment was the difference between me and her, right? That was the key thing. Because it's great being powerless over people and places, things. Every single person on this planet is exactly the same as that, regardless of their past, right? What it was for me is like, what makes me different from my wife? Why do I need to be in Narcotics Anonymous? Why do I have to keep coming back? Why do I have to do service? Because I'm powerless over my addiction, and my addiction is within me. It's not the drugs, it's not the substance, it's not the acting out behaviour, it's actually within me. And that's when I started to get to grips with what was going on here. I started to, understand. Because then I had to look, what is addiction, right? And it says in the basic text, what makes me an addict is my reaction to drugs. Well, I know that one, right? Because that's part of the deal. I had mates when we were younger, I'd take drugs, they'd do this right weird thing on drugs. They'd stop and go home. Weird, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't have the ability to do that. I didn't have the ability to start wanting to go on. So I started to see the differences, what made me different, and that was me being an addict. And then, what it says in the basic text, it talks about there in who's an addict, the bits that make that up. What makes me different, And it was like the obsession of the mind, I don't know about you, my whole life, right, has been about everyone, school teachers, probation. You name anyone that's got in contact with me, they've gone, Darren, stop overthinking it. I don't know if anyone relates in here to being an overthinker. Darren, stop living in your head. What what the fuck are you talking about? Where else is there to live? Do you know what I mean? And I always sort of say, I connected with a point. I started having a conversation, acknowledged, in my mind at probably about 7 or 8 years old. The conversation in my mind hasn't stopped since then. And at a big period of my life, it was fucking dark conversation. It sent and pointed me in places that I didn't want to go to. It was almost like I had this thinking, don't do that, and I'm doing it. So that when he talked about obsession in the mind, I linked it to the drugs. Once you start, you can't stop. Even if you know your kid's waiting for you, you've got to be picked up to school, blah, 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 using drugs. Your wife loves you, she's staring at you, that look, she's telling you don't do it, you do it, because I'm obsessed. With that overthinking, what they said was like, then you're compelled to act on that, right? Well, what I realised was that when I overthink, I drive myself absolutely insane to the point I can't sit still, I can't sit in this space, and I need to act to change something, right? And it doesn't matter what that action is, and in my active addiction it will tell you that I just don't care what that action is, because I want to change it. I want to change, I want to stop this process that I'm in. I'm obsessed in my mind, right? I can't work it out, I'm trying to take control, and I just want to and I'll do anything. I don't know about you, I grew up people saying to me, everyone's always said to me, my dad, especially, what is wrong with you? Why did you do that? What is wrong with you? Well, I know I came here because I'm compelled to act as part of my addiction. The greatest bit, so they're the two things. So I've got the obsession of the mind, overthinking, can't stop using the drugs. I'm compelled to act to change all that. I'll do anything because the feelings and the unmanageability gets too much. I have to act. And then the third part was that, when they said, well, you're totally self-centred. Right? And I've done what every good addict does when they hear about the steps, about self-centred, selfishness and resentment. I'm not selfish and I've got no resentments. I think most people do that, right? And then my sponsor started to explain to me, and he started to look, so you're not then? So he said, give me a situation. And he said, do you ever take your wife into account in that situation? When she said, stop drinking, he said, did you ever consider her feelings? Did you ever consider how it was impacting her? And I've been in a relationship for a long time, and when he's asking me these questions, I'm doing that sort of shuffle in the seat, because I'm starting to feel really uncomfortable, right? Because I didn't think I was self-centred, right? And I considered that I've been with my wife 20 years, I'd never give her a second thought. Not a second thought. Like, what? What do you mean? You know what I mean? I had a few more awakenings through the steps, but when I connected with that them actions that I'm compelled to do are all around me, regardless of anyone else. I was in a relationship, parents, I had a child that was born, and all of that comes second to what I wanted to do. But the key thing is, I didn't really want to do that, because underneath it, I've got a big heart. I'm really quite sensitive. I'm really quite, compassionate. But I've got the disease of addiction, which centres very much in my mind, and it's going to run me ragged, and I'm turning into the person I don't want to be, and I'm so disconnected with myself, I don't even know what reality, the truth is, but getting to understand all of that, I had to keep coming back. It didn't just go overnight, and now I really understand where my addiction lies, and there's many things, I know I'm coming to the end, my sponsor always says that, around addiction with drug use, what I always wanted to do with drugs was try and stop a thirst. There was a craving inside of me, right, that I thought if I just have that, I can stop that craving. When my mates did that, they thought it's Friday night, we'll have half. They do half, it hits the spot, and they have a fantastic night, right? I say, do you want a bit more? They go, nah, done. That worked perfectly, buzzing, it's brilliant, right? The trouble is, when I put a bit of gear in me, I can never stop that first. It creates more of a want. So I think if I just do that, that'd be enough. It was never enough. I don't know about you. Did you ever sit there, you know, on them long drawn out nights, maybe in someone's kitchen or something, and go, no, I've just about had enough. No, don't roll that. Shh, done, I'm done. It never happened to me, and I was at it a lot of years, you know. I'll just finish on here because I know it's time. My sponsor always talks about as well, and I love the analogy, the disease of addiction is like a terrorist organisation. And what that means is, what terrorism is, they look at their target and they find inside information, and then they attack you when where it hurts. And that's what I live with. I live with a disease of addiction. It is like a terrorist organisation within me. It finds my weaknesses and then tries to take me down. That's with or without drugs. Thanks.
Thank you, Darren.
Thank you so much.